All right, good evening and welcome to the special board meeting on March 30th for the Board of Trustees. Rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you everyone. So the purpose of this meeting is so that we meet the deadline for April 1st for a couple of the items that were part of executive orders. The first is for EO 203, which is the police reform order. So I did change in the motion for Alex and Steve. I'll leave your papers in your box. But Lance had approved police reform plan as presented, and I changed out approved for adopt because we actually have to adopt it.
Sounds good.
That's been up on the website pretty much all of the month of March. So I hope you all have taken a chance to see what the committee had pulled together. Greenwich's plan is the exact same one, and we're going to each submit them from our municipality since we do share the officers. They adopted theirs last Thursday night. So the motion would read, adopt the police reform plan as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
So I know we got some questions in about the plan, and I also want to thank Mayor Bogle and Trustee Walsh for their work on this, and for Sergeant Danko and all the community members. It's a tremendous amount of work. I think it's wonderful. I'm grateful. I want to make sure there's a chance to sort of answer some of the questions that have come up and to continue on these conversations. I know we're up against a hard deadline, so I don't want to throw a spanner in the works, but I just want to sort of raise how those conversations might happen, recognizing that this format is difficult when we're hybrid.
Yeah, absolutely. And two, I think it's important for us to look at this plan as a starting point versus an end. I think taking this plan and using that to springboard, many other things is going to be a start to the conversations, as opposed to we passed the plan, we adopted it, we're good, and we move on. We've received about 20 emails for public feedback on the reform email, and a lot of them had great suggestions for public engagement and other items. So it was really good to see, people are really thinking about this topic and thinking about, how can we implement that here in Cambridge? So I would like us to view this as a starting point as opposed to, an ending of something.
Right. So for some of the questions that came in, will we get a chance to talk about them more in depth? I assume it's sort of too late for them to be folded into the plan as it is right now. Is that something we can talk about at the April meeting, or what were you picturing for something like that? And I also want to say Sergeant Danko has always been so responsive when we've had questions like this. He's always been so open, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we actually are going to still have a working group from the committee, because let's see, there's action items in that for a committee to continue beyond just this, especially when it comes to the gathering of resources and information to compile lists for not only our officers to have resources, but also for the public to have resources too. The 5 emails I got, more or less, were their comments as opposed to like specific questions. So I'm not really sure what questions you're getting, but any of the ones that we did receive were answered. That came in through the email.
Every email that in any kind of responses or any kind of questions were talked about in the committee.
Well, I think that she's talking about the comments to the plan as opposed to the survey. Yeah. Yeah, so there will be a working committee after this point that is gonna take any, like, so for instance, there was an email that had a number of, because they noticed public engagement and events were in here, they had a number of suggestions for events and public engagement pieces. So we'll reach back out to those people, say, hey, you had a great suggestion for this event, will you go more in depth on it? Or you had a great suggestion when it came to this piece, would you like to go more in depth on that with us?
Okay, and so the questions about, like, for example, one question I've received is like the anti-bias training, if that's just once, or if that's, you know, part of their annual review, or like what actually satisfies that, or if that's something we figure out in the working of this.
Yeah, well, I definitely, I believe it would be whatever NYMER does. I think it's an annual one because there's updates to train. So as things progress, you know, the anti-bias training that NYMER had last year is not the same one as they have this year. There's additions to it, etc. So it'd pretty much be updated as the standard updates the training. But I would, if there are people who come to you for questions, have them email that reform@cambridgeny.gov email, because that's what the committee is going to be working off from. For those, and then they'll respond and answer the questions too as they come in.
Okay, I've been trying to direct people there, so it may be that you guys close the loop and I didn't, but that's helpful.
Yeah, some provided some resources that they were aware of when it came to mental health or other pieces. They gave, oh, I know this, you know, group does this, or I know this group does that. So any information people have that can be distributed or shared would be great for them to email out.
And how often will the committee be meeting moving forward?
That's yet to be determined. We were trying to get this done to meet the deadline, and then to see what committee members are interested on continuing different pieces.
Will the committee be open to new members? Will there be space for new members, or is it based on the committee that made the reform plan?
Oh, I'm sure if there's people that are interested in working on a particular area, or have suggestions, I'm sure, you know, that could be worked out to add, you know, new people to that.
That's great.
It's a moving, yeah, it's a working group, you know, that will continue to work on the different pieces.
That's
of
fantastic.
The plan. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Call roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you, Steve.
Okay, beautiful. Sorry. So yeah, I just want a couple words. I like your description, Mayor, that this document is the beginning of the process. Well, obviously, what you've done leading up to this was the beginning, but this is the beginning of, you know, further conversations to get us to where we want to be, and I appreciate that. The two big parts that for me, that really stuck out were the recommendations on additional training and the public engagement and public outreach recommendations. So I know right now these are called recommendations, but will we as a board ask the police department to adopt some of these recommendations as official policy? So for like the trainings, you know, there's a bullet in here that says, you know, we recommend supplemental training should be a requirement. So are we as a board going to make that a requirement? And how do we make that requirement accountable? Like, is that going to be in each officer's annual review? And if they don't complete it, you know, I don't know if these are discussions for later on down the road or whatnot, but that was something that I was curious about.
Yeah, what we can do is take, of course, they're recommending, and then what we would do is we would update our employee manual handbook. for the officers and say, we would like, X, Y, and Z done. That's a simple addition to what Sergeant Danko would require of his officers. So updating the employee's handbook for them would make it a requirement.
Gotcha. Sorry, I don't know if my video feed's going in and out there.
Steve, there's 25 trainings that that Sergeant Danko is going to make sure that his officers take. That's minimum, and that's all through NYMER. So I mean, it's some thorough trainings.
Great. Yeah, no, that's great. That's excellent.
The way it works on NYMER, each officer is assigned their own count, and then every training they have, it shows up what they've done. So Sergeant Danko can go and look at what all of the officers have done and see where they're missing or see where they need to do, and then it records all that information. So that way there's a way to track what they've done. Yeah.
Nice. And again, the other piece that I really liked was the recommendations on community outreach. Obviously, that was probably what got the strongest response in the surveys. So I haven't heard from too many residents, but I've heard from a few, and they also echo that this is their favorite part, I guess, for lack of a better term, and especially the recommendation that officers get out of the car and get on foot and get out there and really, pound the flesh, I guess, to, and meet people. So, I appreciate that. I think that's a great idea.
There's some really exciting things for the department in here, and, completely feasible for them, all of these things. That really do, we're fortunate enough that we're in a small enough community that community policing is not hard to implement.
Right. Absolutely.
So it was a good process.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. But yeah, just to end, to echo Trustee Derry Snyder, you guys did a phenomenal job. So great job, and thank you for taking this on.
Yeah, and it's a huge thanks to 18 members of the committee who gave their time toward this. It was greatly appreciated. And then thank you to Greenwich when we merged with them. It was a really great process to have both communities share their similarities and then share their differences and see how those came out in one plan for us all. So it was a very rewarding process.
It's great.
All right, so we do have a motion on the table. We've got our first, we've got our second. Are we ready to vote? I'm gonna do roll call since they're online. It'll be a little easier. So I'll go last. Trustee Robertson.
Aye.
Trustee Derry Snyder.
Aye.
Trustee Amy Walsh.
Yeah. Yes.
Trustee Halleck.
Aye.
All right, and the second piece, which I hope you all got the email, was it yesterday from Lance or earlier today? So also another one of the executive orders was to adopt a plan for communicable disease protocols. So also another item that had to go for, and I was really at wit's end at this point, but Lance, fabulous job. He and I worked together. He had a great template put together to do this and made it a very easy process. So the emergency plan will be added to our already existing comprehensive emergency management plan that we have. So basically this meets all the little check mark requirements that we had to have in regards to personnel. And basically we measured what we actually did last year in COVID, how we established who was essential, who wasn't, and who we kept working during that time. here it is in document form. And so that's pretty much all of that. And we'll submit that to the state as well. If you have any comments, questions in regard to that, but the motion would read, approve Annex A 2021 protocols for responding to a public health emergency involving a communicable disease for the Village of Cambridge municipal government and to the Village of Cambridge Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan dated May 4th, 2016 as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I don't know if anybody had any questions. Make it okay. SH.
I'll second.
SR. Any discussion?
I know that Lance made comment on the email about the PPP. It's basically a unfunded mandate for us.
Yeah, the PPE that we would have to provide, the list in there. Basically, they're saying we have to spend money to have this PPE. We were fortunate with COVID that all of it came from the county and from the state to us, so we didn't actually have to spend funds for PPE. So that was great, and probably I would imagine there wasn't such instance with a disease such as COVID, that would be the protocol again. But we just have to have it listed in here how much we would provide should we have to buy it outright ourselves.
Does this mean that we'll have to have it on hand at all times?
That was a little mucky, that was a little gray area of this because there was nothing in the list of requirements that said we had to.
My understanding was we just have to supply it.
We have to be able to supply it
In the event of
in the event,
So I don't
yeah.
think it'd be a bad idea for us to keep a couple boxes of masks
Right.
around.
Yeah,
So that needs to be something.
and if we do stock it, he does have the storage section about where we would store it should we go and purchase it. So that way,
It's something we should
we have some on
find out the
hand.
cost and build it into our budget.
Yep. So, yeah, because we would need 3,900 masks just for firefighters.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think we need to plan budget-wise for that.
Yeah, that's that's a very good point, Trustee Walsh. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's something we could add into our regular, supplies like our paper towels and, toilet paper that we buy X number of boxes every month when Lance puts his order in, to help spread the cost, over a length of time. He buys a couple boxes of masks every toilet paper order or paper towel order to start getting up there so that we have it.
Yeah, we would just need to make sure that we're tracking it very well, just in case, sometime down the line,
Yeah.
either the federal government or the state government says, hey, we have a bunch of money that you can have for PPE costs. So just as long as we're keeping an eye on it and
Yeah.
tracking things closely.
Right.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll do roll call voting. Trustee Robertson.
Aye.
Trustee Deary Snyder.
Aye.
Trustee Walsh.
I,
Trustee Hallett.
Aye.
All right, and the next would be a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, Trustee Robertson.
Aye.
Trustee Deary Snyder.
Aye.
Trustee Walsh.
I.
Trustee Hallett.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will see you next week for our regular board meeting.
Great. Thank you again.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I can't read.